Alright, hello everybody. Today I want to be talking about the 7.2.5 disk changes and kind of my ideas and give you a, I would say, out of the box opinion, because I don't see this being talked about at all. So with 7.2.5 we're going to be seeing powered radiance. Well, we're going to be getting charges on powered radiance. That is what pretty much they're going to be doing, and I highly doubt they're going to stray away from this charge system. So rather than me going on about why I don't think charges are really good for a healer, I want to talk about where they can actually go with Disc Priest to make it viable. Now, the biggest problem they're going to have when they're introducing charges is that Disc Priest, well, it's going to be with the damage models of the boss. So when we see something like Croesus, you get to the end of the fight, there is a much higher amount of raid damage going out. So you're going to be having, all your healers pretty much saving their mana for that point, and when they get to that point, that's when they want to be dumping majority of their mana, and charges prevent you from doing that, prevent you from actually being able to expend your mana in that certain way, especially when we see something like Radiance, where it is our biggest, use of mana, and it is our biggest source of healing. So if we compare this to something like, Holy, imagine if Holy had charges on how they use their Prayer of Healing. Now, that might be okay in most situations, but in the situations where you want to be doing a lot of raid healing, that is when it's going to prevent you from doing that. Now, I know there is differences between it, but think of it as the same way. Think of it, applying Atonement is our biggest, source of healing. So that is the problem with charges. Now, they're going to be putting in charges to make Disc easier for people to play. It's going to, going to be preempting mechanics for 10 seconds. So I have a feeling that is going to happen no matter what. Just because, the game isn't balanced around the top 0.1% of people. The game is, balanced so everyone can play it, which is fine. Some people might not like that, but, when you're playing a game with however many people, 8 million people, there has to be, not everything can be, to the nth degree of difficulty. So they're going to introduce charges, and they're going to be pushing Disc more into you want to be applying the kind of mini beacons and healing your mini beacons. Now, the inherent problem with this is that the boss damage models right now are all about AoE damage. And all the healing models heal AoE damage. So what they're going to continue to do is make bosses do AoE damage. And the mini beacon style of healing does not work for this. So, the one fight we see in, I guess there's two fights. There's Star Augur and there's Tichondrius that have dangerous debuffs applied to targets. And like right now, you see, if Disc had kind of mini beacons they could apply to those people, Disc would be ridiculously powerful for those fights. And for other fights, say like Croesus, where you can only atone 6 or 7 people, they're pretty terrible. So if they want to go down this path of making it a mini beacon, they need to be doing, you need to be doing significant healing on your mini beacons. And if you also want to be viable in an AoE situation, then you need to be doing even more healing onto these mini beacons so that you pick up the slack. And this is kind of exactly the same as what the Brewmaster Monk situation is, where if you want to be good in a certain situation, you have to be, you can't just be terrible in something else, because then you're not viable, because there is 10, 12, 13 fights in a certain raid tier, and you need to be viable for all those fights. So if you need to be good in one, you're going to be exceptional in the other, and if you're going to be exceptional in the other, then you're going to be, good in whatever. So I said that wrong. You either for you to be good, you need to be really good in some situations, and then good in most situations, and that is not something that is really you're able to balance around, which is the problem with this mini beacon kind of style of healing. So what I actually would love to see is Disc going back to its kind of hybrid roots. So, we saw originally that the design, goal for Disc Priest was to be a 70% healer, 70% damage. You know, they said Disc Priest should not be viable in Mythic Plus, yet you see when the game came out, Disc was the obvious choice for Mythic Plus. So, you know, and as things have changed, you know, that has, you know, Disc's damage has become less significant because we don't scale the same way as a DPS is scaling, and you know, certain changes to Holy now make Holy the obvious choice in Mythic Plus. So, you know, things have changed, especially, you know, not just from the beginning of the game, but things have changed, you know, sorry, the beginning of Legion, but also been changing because of tier sets, because of new traits and whatever. So, you know, I would love to see Disc go back to this kind of hybrid role. And what does that entail? Well, that, you know, if we have this charge system, that'll actually be really quite good for this hybrid role, because you're going to be using more globals on doing damaging spells. Now, this is actually what I do think they are aiming for. I just don't think they want to say it, because we see that the tier piece we're getting, you know, 200% increased damage on the first stick of Penance, a huge Penance damage buff. We're getting Smite mana cost reduction and Smite damage increase. That is to allow you to use more Smites without it being detrimental to your mana. So, you know, just those two changes in general will significantly increase the damage Disc is doing, which will make it, you know, very good in terms of this hybrid role. Now, will it be enough to validate its spot as a healer if you're not going to be doing a significant amount of healer? Probably not. I think you'll find that a lot of people don't like the fact that, you know, you're not good at one thing, but you're good at everything. Now, that might be just a community issue, and I do think we'll see more changes actually coming onto Disc Priest to increase probably its healing. But it is something that I don't think is being talked about enough, is that, you know, if they want to be changing it to this mini beacon, making it easier to play, then why not push it again into this kind of hybrid aspect where you have a significant amount of damage. You know, I want to be able to be doing in this state, you know, 500, 600k DPS, single target. You know, what is wrong with that if everybody else is doing 800k? And then, you know, maybe be pushing out, you know, a significant amount of healing. Now, the problem with the hybrid aspect, obviously, is that, you know, what if a fight deems you to have exactly 4 healers? Well, then probably Disc isn't your best choice, and, you know, good thing for the Disc Priest is that you have 2 other specs you can play. One a healer, one a DPS spec. So, it's not like you're always going to be pushed into being a Disc Priest. You know, I know people are going to say blah 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 AP, blah 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 legendaries. I can tell you that I've been playing, you know, what, Holy, and I put majority of my AP into Disc, and I'm still doing very well as Holy. And especially now that you can get legendaries quite easily, you know, you're fine playing your off specs. Don't think you're not fine playing your off specs. It's just an excuse. So what was I saying? Yeah, I mean, it's if you want to push Disc, if they want to make Disc this kind of, you know, if they want to kind of dumb down the playstyle of Disc, put on charges, make us do more damage, make us, you know, be good at, you know, healing certain targets or whatever. You know, make us exceptionally good on something like Star Augur, make us average on something like Croesus, but give us a fuckload of damage. And, you know, I'm happy. I think that'll be a really good spot for this to be in. You know, you'll have a lot of choices to choose from. You know, you get to a fight like Spellblade where you might not need 5 healers, but you do want a barrier cooldown or something. You do want a little bit more damage. You know, even something like Croesus where, you know, most guilds 3 heal it. You know, why don't you pick up a Disc Priest, 3.5 heal it, have an extra, you know, person who can pump out a significant amount of DPS. That is a perfect situation for a Disc Priest to be in. And, you know, if it's not gonna work, then yeah, they can play Holy. Yeah, they can play Shadow. You know, that's something that I think the game has evolved to a point where people are actually knowledgeable enough to make those decisions fairly easily. If a certain spec doesn't work for a certain fight, you know, you see mages do it all the time, you know, whether they want to switch from fire to frost for a certain situation. And, you know, you see warlocks doing it every time. Why not have it the same kind of choice as a healer? Whether you want to be playing this kind of hybrid, whether you want to be playing a pure DPS, whether you want to be playing a pure healer. Yep, so that is, again, something I haven't heard pretty much anyone say, is pushing it back into this hybrid aspect, giving us a lot more damage and maybe reducing our healing a bit. I think these changes do reduce our healing. So, you know, if we get compensated in a ridiculous amount of damage, then, you know, I'm happy. So let me know what you think. I think it's probably going to be a very unpopular opinion, but we'll see what comes out of it. Alright, thanks for watching, and I hope you learned something.